Hey, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Christina Kent and I'm an artist based out of San Francisco. And today I want to talk about something that is really important to keep in mind if you're an artist and especially if you're posting and selling your work online, and that is artist scams. I'm also going to talk about some things that are not exactly scams, but are kind of, you could call them like pay to play. They're kind of scam adjacent that I think artists should also be aware of. And these things are things that I've experienced in the past few years, selling my art online, posting my work to Instagram. They're things that I've personally come up against. There are lots of other scams out there, I think, so this isn't going to be like all the scams that you need to keep in mind, but they're just a few that I've experienced myself. Thankfully, a lot of these scams are relatively easy to spot, so kind of and you may have already seen them yourself, but once you kind of know what to look for or you know what to kind of keep in mind, then I think it's really easy for you to notice these scams and move past them. And this is something that I personally find very frustrating because I think oftentimes artists aren't making that much money and yet we're still targeted by these scammers. And I think that they're preying on the fact that they know art is very competitive oftentimes and we're looking for opportunities to show our work, we're looking for opportunities to get commissions, and sometimes I think they just think that we're desperate, and that's what they're really preying upon. So I think it's a huge shame that people like this are targeting artists, but it is the way it is, so we gotta educate ourselves and make sure that we're on the lookout for these things. So one of the scams that I get the most frequently is the NFT scam. And this one, I haven't fully gone down the rabbit hole of it. Thankfully, I haven't actually fallen prey to any of these scams, but from what I've heard, basically the way it goes is someone will contact you on Instagram and they'll say that they love your work and they'll ask you if it's available as an NFT. And I like I said, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole with this one, but I think what they do is then they kind of get you to pay to mint the NFT through their platform or whatever, and really they have no intention of helping you sell the work. They kind of just want you to pay to mint this NFT, or maybe they try to get your credit card information, they do something else nefarious. But basically, from what I've heard, these are all total scams. And usually they don't even mention NFT in the first message on Instagram, but often I find that they'll say something like, they'll have some sort of grammatical error, like they'll say, I like your artworks. So rather than saying, I like your artwork. So if you see something like that, that's an immediate red flag. And there are ways that you can prevent even getting these messages. I think one thing that I really recommend is going on Instagram and blocking messages from people who don't follow you. You can even block messages from people that you don't actively follow. I like to keep those messages open because sometimes I get people who I don't follow who still reach out to me and I want to connect with them even though I don't want to follow them. But definitely I would recommend blocking messages from people who don't follow you, because if they don't follow you, they're not interested in your work. Another scam that I sometimes get through Instagram, or sometimes it comes on my email, is people will ask me for really weird commissions. And like they'll ask for something like, can you do a commission of a portrait of my son, but have his name written on it and have a candy cane in the image, or something that just sounds very strange and is really out of what I would usually do. I looked into this one as well, and apparently it's a common request and also a scam. Not sure what exactly happens as you go further down the road, but yeah, apparently this one is also something to be avoided. And I've gotten several emails that were kind of in this style. Another scam that I've gotten, mostly through Instagram, is people saying that they want to use my artwork for a mural, and that, they love my work, they want to use it for a mural, and that I'll definitely get paid for it. And I've actually followed up with someone on this. Like the first time I got it, I thought, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, like tell me more. And they never responded, but then I got several messages kind of similar to that over the years to make me realize like, oh yeah, this is also a scam. There's something fishy going on here. So if you get a message like that where they're saying they're gonna use your work for a mural and you're definitely gonna get paid, I would just avoid that. Another common scam that I get, and this is mostly over email, is someone asking to commission a painting or buy a painting for their husband or wife for their anniversary. For some reason, it's always that, husband, wife, anniversary, and they always offer to pay by check. And I looked into this one, and apparently the scam is that they offer to pay by check, they'll send you a check for the amount, but it's actually a little bit over the amount, maybe $100 more than what the actual price was. So then they ask you to send them a check or you to send them money back to compensate for the difference. And then when you actually try to cash their check, it bounces. So yeah, that's another scam that I tend to get over email, something else to watch out for. And in general, I don't accept checks as payment. I found Zelle seems to be a pretty good way, at least if you're in the US. I think Zelle is great for payments. PayPal has worked well for me also, although I know that there can be some issues with PayPal. And yeah, I do accept checks if it's someone that I know in person, but I just don't, if it's someone that I don't know over the internet, then I'll use Zelle, PayPal, another trusted payment system. Or like on my website, I have an e-commerce thing set up. So my website, which is through Wix, it'll just handle those payments. And then now let's talk about things that aren't exactly scams, but also are kind of, I would say, like scam adjacent. One of the things that I've noticed a lot are there are these like online publications that I find they're kind of scam adjacent. They often target artists or business owners, and they'll say, hey, we're gonna do an article about you. We'll do a profile or an interview. You'll get some free publicity in our magazine, and we'll show you to our readership. And if you've never had an article written about you before and you're, you know, trying to grow your art business, like that's amazing. It's like so cool. And the first time when they reached out to me, I was super excited about it. But then I did one of these, and I'm not gonna say the name of the magazine because I don't think they're necessarily bad. They're just something to watch out for. And I think some people will, knowing what they know about the magazine, will still want to do it. And that's their choice. But what I've noticed is that after you do the interview, they will then start to reach out to you a bunch to ask for some sort of paid promotion. And that can be really frustrating. You think that you're doing the interview just because they're interested in you, and then you realize that they kind of just want you to advertise and basically pay for more promotion. I've also done one where I filled out the whole interview. They usually don't interview in person. They send you an email of questions that you need to answer. I've also done it where I filled out all of the questions, and then when I went to submit the questions, they said, oh, by the way, you need to pay this much amount to help support our magazine if you want this interview to go through. And that was so frustrating because I'd already spent that time filling out the questionnaire. So if you get contacted by a magazine, I think it's really important, if you don't know the magazine, so you don't know if it's if it has, you know, if it's really worth your time, just some things that you can ask are ask them about their readership, ask them more information about who's getting that magazine. Try to see if other artists you respect have been in that magazine. And then if they're not even doing like an actual interview where they're calling you and talking to you, if they're just sending you a list of questions, then maybe that's a sign that you should pass. Another thing that I've noticed that tends to be a sign with these sorts of publications is they'll ask you to refer other people. And I don't know if legit publications do this as well. Honestly, I haven't been written up in any big magazines, so I really don't know. But I think that if they're asking you to refer other people, that's also kind of a red flag. Might not mean that you shouldn't do it, but might mean that, hey, you want to take another look at this magazine and see if it's really legit. And then the last thing that's not really a scam, but also something for artists to keep in mind, is a lot of these art competitions that are kind of national juried exhibitions. A lot of galleries will put out these national calls for artists that anyone can submit to, and oftentimes they charge a high entry fee for submitting images, or they charge a fee per image. And honestly, like, I've only tried these things a couple of times. I've had no good experiences with them. Actually, in one case I had a good experience, but it was actually for a local gallery. So it was a national call, but I knew the gallery and I was a local artist. So I think that that could make a difference. But I kind of feel like if there's a gallery that you've never heard of that's doing a competition in, say, North Dakota, and you live in Texas, unless you just have all the money in the world to spend, I would recommend maybe not submitting to exhibitions like that or to open calls like that, because they're just casting such a wide net. They're going to get so many applications, and I'm kind of suspicious that they're probably going to be picking artists that they already know, probably from their local area if they're a smaller local gallery. So, and this is not to say that you should never apply to a national open call. I do think that there are lots of national open calls that are great, and there's some big national grants like the Guggenheim grant or Creative Capital grants that I've heard are really, really solid and respected. But those are very high level, they're very competitive, and they tend to be for established artists. So I would say if you are like an emerging artist, I would focus more locally on the opportunities that are within your hometown or within your state, and focus on that where you have like more of a local connection. Because I find that for me at least, these national juried calls are kind of a waste of money. So anyway, that's my experience so far with these art scams or sort of pay-to-play situations. Hopefully I won't have many more experiences with things like this, but I just wanted to share it with you all because I know it's something that you'll encounter if you start selling your art, if you're trying to grow an art business. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this video. If you have experienced any scams, feel free to post them in the comments, share that so other people can kind of just be aware of what's going on. If you have any follow-up questions, let me know. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. And as always, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and making these videos happen. If you like my art, if you like my videos, and you want to help me make more, check out my Patreon at the link. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.